Om Shri Matha, O Mother of the entire existence, Shri Maharagni, she who is the Empress who takes care of the universe, Shrimat Simhasaneshwari, she who sits on the throne of lions, Chidagni Kunda Sambhuta, she who rose from the fire of knowledge and is the ultimate truth, Devakarya Samudhyata, she who helps those with pure minds, Devtas, Udyat Bhanu Sahasrabha, she who glitters like 1,000 rising suns, Chatur Bahur Samanvidha, she who has 4 arms, Ragaswarupa Pasadya, she has love for all in the form of a rope which she holds in her left hand, Krodhakaran Kusojvala, she who glitters and has anger in form of Anghusa in one of her right hands, Manorupeshu Kotanda, she who has the bow of sweet cane which is the mind in one of her left hands, Panchathana Matrasrayaka, she who has 5 bows of touch, smell, hearing, taste and sight, Nijaruna Prabhapura Majjat Brahmanda Mandala, she who makes all the universe immerse in her red color which is like the sun in the dawn, Champaka Kosa Punaka Sovagandhikala Satkacha, she who wears in her hair flowers like Champaka, Punnaga and Sovagandhika, Kuru Vindyamani Shreni Kanat Kotira Mandita, she whose crown glitters with rows of inlaid precious stones, Padmaraga stones, Ashtami Chandra Vibraja Dhalika Sthala Shobhita, she who has beautiful forehead like the half moon visible on the 8th day from new moon, Mukha Chandra Kalankabha Mringanabhi Viseshaka, she who has the tilaka of musk on her forehead which is like the black shadow in the moon, Vandana Smara Mangalya Grihathorana Chillaka, she who has beautiful eyelids which look like the ornaments to her face which is the epitome of beauty, Vaktra Lakshmi Parivaha Chalan Meena Bhalochana, she who has beautiful eyes which look like fish in the pond of her face, Nava Champaka Pushpabha Nasa Dhanda Virajita, she who has the nose like a freshly opened flowers of Champaka, Thara Kanthi Tiraskari Nasa Bharna Bhasura, she who has a nose ring which shines more than the stars, Kadamba Manjari Klupta Karna Pura Manohara, she who has beautiful ears like the Kadamba flowers, Thadanga Yugali Bhuta Thapanodupa Mandala, she who wears the sun and the moon as her ear studs, Padmaraga Siladarsha Paribhav Kapolabhu, she who has cheeks which shine more than the mirror made by Padmaraga, Nava Vidruma Bhimbha Srinyakari Ratnachadha, she whose lips are like beautiful new corals. Shuddha Vidya Gurakara Dvija Pangathi Dvajvala. She who has teeth which seem like Sodakshari Vidya to Sadhaka. Karpura Vidika Modha Samakarsha Digandhara. She who chews betel leaf, which the spices give perfume in all directions. Nija Sallabha Madhurya Vinirbhardistakachabhi. She who has voice sweeter than the notes produced by Saraswati Devi Veena. This is called Kachabhi. Mandasmitha Prabhapura Majjat Kamekshamanasa. She who has lovely smile, which is like the river in which the mind of Cupid plays. Anakalidha Sadrushya Jibhuka Shri Virajita. She who has a beautiful chin, which has nothing else to compare. Kamesha Badha Mangalya Sutra Shobhita Kandhara. She who shines with a secret thread in her neck tied by Lord Kameshwara, Bhagwan Shiva. Kanakangadha Keyura Kamaneya Bhujanvidha. She who wears beautiful golden bangles. Ratna Greveya Chintaka Loka Mukta Phalanvidha. She who wears necklace with moving pearls and gems, which in fact are the sattva guna of higher beings. Kameshwara Prema Ratna Mani Prathipanasthani. She who has breasts which are like pots made of Ratna, which has obtained the love of Kameshwara, Mahadev Shiva. Nabhya Lavala Romali Latha Phala Kuchadvai. She who has two breasts that are like fruit borne on the creeper of tiny hairs rising from her belly. Laksha Roma Latha Dharatha Samunneya Madhyama. She who is suspected to have a waist because of the creeper-like hairs rising from there. Sthana Bharadalan Madhya Patya Bandhya Velithraya. She who has 3 stripes in the middle of her belly. Aruna Aruna Kausamba Vastra Bhasvat Kati Thati. She who shines in her reddish silk cloth worn over her tiny waist. Ratna Kinkina Karamya Rasanadhama Bhutsita. She who wears a golden thread below her waist, decorated with bells made of precious stones. Kameshagnata Saubhagya Marduvoru Dvaryanvita. She who has pretty and tender thighs, known only to her consort Kameshwara. Manikhya Mukutakara Janudvaya Virajita. She who has knee joints like the crown made of manikya below her thighs. Indrakopa Parikshipta Smararthana Bhajangika. She who has 4 legs like the Cupid's case of arrows, followed by the bee called Indrakopa. Kuda Gulfa. She who has round ankles. Kurma Prashtha Jayishnu Prabhatan Vidha. She who has the upper feet like the back of a tortoise. Nakadhidhiti Samchanna Nama Janna Thamaguna. She who removes the darkness in the minds of her devotees by the sparkle of her nails. Padadvaya Prabhajala Parakruta Saroruha. She who has 2 feet, which are much more beautiful than the lotus flowers. Shinchanamani Manjira Bandhita Shri Pamambuja. She who has feet wearing musical anklets filled with gemstones. Marali Mandhagamana. She who has the slow gait like the swan. Mahalavanya Sevadhi. She who has the storehouse of supreme beauty. Sarvaruna. She who has light reddish color of the dawn in all her aspects. Anavadhyangi. She who has most beautiful limbs which do not lack any aspect of beauty. Sarvabharna Bhushita. She who wears all the ornaments. Shiva Kameswarangrastha. She who sits on the lap of Kameshwara, Shiva. Shiva. She who is the personification of Shiva himself. Swadhina Vallabha. She whose husband obeys her. Summeru Madhya Singhasthya. She who lives in the central peak of Mount Meru. Sriman Nagaranayaka. She who is the chief of the Nagar, the universe. Chintamani Grihanthastha. She who lives in all the wish-fulfilling temples. Pancha Brahmasana Sthita. She who sits on the 5 Brahmas, that is, Brahma, Vishnu, Rudra, Isana and Sadashiva. Mahapadmadavi Samstha. She who lives in the forest of lotus flowers. Kadambhava Nivasini. She who lives in the forest of Kadamba. Sudha Sagara Madhyastha. She who lives in the middle of the sea of nectar. Kamakshi. She who fulfills desire by her sight. Kamadhayini. She who gives what is desired by her true bhakta. Devarashikana Sangatha Stuya Manatma Vaibhava. She who has all the qualities fit to be worshipped by the sages and devas. Bhandasura Vadhokyukta Shakti Sena Samavitha. She who is surrounded by army set ready to kill Bhandasura. Sampathakari Samaruda Sindhura Vrijasevitha. She who is surrounded by Sampathkari, that which gives wealth, which is the army of the great elephants. Asvarudadi Shivdvasva Kodi Kodi Viravruta. She who is surrounded by innumerous cavalry of horses. Chakra Raja Ratharuda Sarva Yudha Parishkritha. She who is fully armed and rides in the Sri Chakra chariot with 9 stories. Geya Chakra Rathagruda Mantrini Parisevitha. She who rides in the chariot with 7 stories and is served by Mantrini, who is the goddess of music. Giri Chakra Ratharuda Dandanatha Puraskruta. She who rides in the chariot with 5 stories and is served by goddess Varahi, also known as Dandanatha. Jwali Mali Kakshipta Vanhi Prakara Madhyaka. She who is in the middle of the fort of fire built by goddess Jwala Malini. Bhanda Sainya Vadodhyukta Shakti Vikrama Harshita. She who was pleased by the various Shaktis who helped in killing of Bhandasura. Nitya Parakamatopa Nirikshana Samuchaka. She who is interested and happy in observing the valor of Nitya Devtas also implies she is the goddess of every day. Bandaputra Vadodyukta Bala Vikramanandita. She who was pleased by the valor of Bala Devi, her daughter, in destroying the sons of Banda. Mantriyamba Virachita Vishangavathadoshita. She who became happy at seeing goddess Mantharini kill Vishanga represents our desires for physical things. Vishuka Pranaharana Varahi Viryanandita. She who appreciates the valor of Varahi in killing Vishuka. He is the personification of ignorance. Kameshwara Mukaloka Kalpita Shri Ganeshwara. He who created God Ganesha by the mere look of the face of her Lord Kameshwara. Mahaganesha Nirbhinna Vignayantra Praharshita. She who became happy at seeing God Ganesha destroy the Vignayantra created by Vishuka. Banda Surendra Nirmukta Shastra Pratyastra Varshini. She who rained arrows and replied with arrows against Bandasura. Karanguli Nakhotpanna Narayana Dasakriti. She who created the 10 avatar of Narayana from the tip of her nails. Mahapasupathasragni Nirthak Sura Sainika. She who destroyed the army of Asura by the Mahapashupatha arrow. Kameshwarastra Nirdhakta Sabundrasura Sunyaka. She who destroyed Bandasura and his city called Sunyaka by the Kameshwara arrow. Brahmopendra Mahendradhi Deva Samstuta Vaibhava. She who is prayed by God Brahma, Vishnu, Indra and other devas. Hara Netragni Sangtakta Kama Sanjeevanaushadhi. She who brought back to life the god of love Manmatha, Kamadeva, who was burnt to ashes by the fire from the eyes of Shiva. Shrivak Bhave Kudaika Swarupa Mukha Pankaja. She whose lotus face is Vagnavapkuta. Kantatakari Paryantha Madhya Kudaiga Swarupini. She whose portion from neck to hips is Madhyakuta. Sakti Kudaiga Thappanna Kadyatho Bhagadharini. She whose portion below the hips is Shakti Kuta. Mula Mantratmika. She who is the cause of Mula Mantra. She is the form of all Mula Mantra herself. Mula Kudatraya Kalebhara. She whose body is the 3 parts of basic mantra, that is Pancha Dashakshari mantra. Kula Mruthai Karasika. She who is herself but also is the greatest enjoyer of the oneness of the state of Brahman, consciousness, Satchidananda. Kula Sanketha Palini. She who protects the powerful truth from falling into unsuitable people's hands. Kulangana. she who is a lady belonging to a cultured family, or she who is like Sri Vidya, known only to those whom it belongs. Kulantrastra, she who is fit to be worshipped anywhere. Kaulini, she who is the unification of principle of Shiva and Shakti. Kulayogini, she who is related to the family, or she who is related to the ultimate knowledge. Akula, she who is beyond Kula, or she who is beyond any knowledge. Samayanthastra, she who is within the mental worship of Shiva and Shakti. Samayacharathatpara, she who likes Samayachara, that is, worship stepwise from Mooladhara Chakra. Mooladharaikanilaya, she who exists in Mooladhara. In Mooladhara, which is in the form of four-petaled lotus, the Kundalini sleeps. Brahma Grandhi Vibhedani, she who breaks the tie in Brahma Grandhini. That is, she liberates us from the cycle of birth and death, from the grips of samsara. Manipurantharudhita, she who exists in Manipuraka Chakra, full dressed in her fineries. Vishnu Grandhi Vibhedani, she who breaks the ties of Vishnu Gandhi. That is, she is the one who helps us cross the ties due to our positions. Agna Chakrantharalastha, she who lives in between two eyelids in the form of she who orders. Rudra Grandhi Vibhedini, she who breaks the ties of Rudra Grandhi. She who helps us cross the ties due to our violent thoughts and nature. Sahasraram Bhujarudha, she who resides in Sahasrara, the 1,000-petaled lotus, which is the point of ultimate awakening. Sudha Sarabhivarshini, she who makes nectar flow in all our nerves from Sahasrara. That is, she who provides samadhi. Lalitha Sahasranamam, she who shines like the streak of lightning. Satchakropari samsthita, she who is on the top of 6 wheels starting from Mooladhara. Mahasasakthaya, she who is in the worship of her devotees. Kundalini, she who is in the form of Kundalini, a form which is like a snake hissing and exists from the Mooladhara. Besatanthyothaniyase, she who is as thin as the thread from lotus. Bhavani, she who gives life to the routine life of human beings. Or she who is the consort of Lord Shiva. Bhavanagamya, she who can be attained by the greatest of all knowledge. Bhavaranya Kodagrika, she who is like the axe used to cut the miserable pain and suffering of the world. Bhadrapriya, she who is interested in doing good to her devotees. Bhadramurthy, she who is the personification of all that is good. Bhaktya Saubhagyadayini, she who gives all the goodness and Saubhagya to her devotees. Bhakti Priya, she who likes devotion. Bhakti Gamya, she who can be reached by devotion. Bhakti Vasya, she who can be controlled by devotion. Bhayapaha, she who removes fear. Sambhavya, she who is married to Shambhu. Saradharya, she who is to be worshipped during Navratri. Sarvani, she who is the consort of Lord Shiva in the form of Sarvar. Sarmadhayani, she who gives all pleasures. Sankari, she who is the consort of Shankara. Shrikari, she who gives all forms of wealth and happiness. Sadhavi, she who is eternally devoted to her husband. Sarat Chandra Nibhyanata, she who is the face like moon in the autumn. Satodhari, she who has a thin belly. Santhimati, she who is peace personified. Niradhara, she who does not need any support to herself. Niranjana, she who is devoid of any blemishes or scars. That is, she is purity itself. Niralepa, she who does not have any attachment. That is, cannot be tainted by moha. Nirmala, she who is personification of clarity, or she who is devoid of any dirt. Nithya, she who is permanently stable. That is, the one who always exists, beyond the birth and death of universe and time itself. Nirakara, she who does not have any shape. Nirakula, she who cannot be attained by confused people. Nirguna, she who is beyond any characteristics. Nishkala, she who is not divided. Santha, she who is peace. Nishkama, she who does not have any desires. Nirupallava, she who can never be destroyed. Nityamukta, she who is forever free of the ties of the world. Nirvikara, she who never goes any alteration. Nishprapancha, she who is beyond this universe. Nirasraya, she who does not need support. Nitya Shuddha, she who is forever clean. Nitya Buddha, she who is forever knowledge. Niravatya, she who can never be accused, that is, beyond every accusation and fault. Nirathara, she who is forever continuous. Nishkarna, she who does not have a cause. Nishkalanka, she does not have any blemishes. Nirupadhi, she who does not have any basis. Nirishvara, she who does not have anyone controlling her. Niraga, she does not have any raga. Raghamadhani, she who removes desires from us. Niramadha, she who does not have arrogance. Madhanasini, she who destroys ego. Nischinta, she who is beyond all troubles. Nirahankara, she who is beyond ego. That is, can be found, can be reached by sadhakas who have overcome their ahankar, ego, sense of I. Niramoha, she who does not have moha, and she to whom only those who have won over moha can reach. Mohanasini, she who destroys moha in her devotees herself. Nirmama, she who is beyond the sense of mama, the sense of I. Mamatahantri, she who destroys the sense of mama, the sense of I. Nishpapa, she who is beyond all evil. Papanashini, she who destroys all evil. Nishkrodha, she who is devoid of anger. Krodha samani, she who destroys anger. Nirlobha, she who comes beyond greed. Lobhanasini, she who removes all greed. Nissamasya, she who is beyond doubts. Samsayagni, she who clears all doubts. Nirbhava, she who does not have birth. Bhavanasini, she who helps us not to have another birth. Nirvikalpa, she who does not have any second to her. That is, there is no other than her. Nirbadha, she who is not affected by anything. Nirbheda, she who has equal vision, samadrashti amongst all. Bhedanasini, she who provides samdrashti, oneness, viewing all with same vision. Nirnasa, she who cannot die or perish. Mrityumadhani, she who removes the fear of death. Nishkriya, she who is not the karta, as she is pure consciousness. Nishparigraha, she who does not require any other entity to exist. Nisthula, she who does not have anything to be compared to. Neelachikura, she who has dark black hair. Nirapaya, she who is never destroyed. Nirathyaya, she who does not cross limits of rules she herself created. That is, the rules of Prakriti. Durlabha, she who is difficult to attain. Durgama, she who cannot be attained easily. Durga, she who is Durga. Dukkahantri, she who removes sorrows. Sukhaprada, she who gives pleasures and happiness. Dushtadura, she who keeps one away from evil. Durachara samani, she who destroys evil practices. Doshavarjita, she who does not have any dosha, that is, bad qualities. Sarvagna, she who is the knower of all. Sandra Karuna, she who is full of compassion. Samanadhika Varjita, she who is incomparable. Sarvashaktimai, she who is the personification of all of Shakti. Sarvamangala, she who is the personification of all good. Sadgati Prada, she who gives her devotees the right path and the greatest destination. Sarveshwari, she who is the goddess of all that exists. Sarvamai, she who is everywhere. Sarvamantra Swarupini, she who is the personification of all mantra. Sarvayantratmika, she who is represented by all yantra. Sarvatantra Rupa, she who is also the goddess of all tantra. Manonmani, she who is the result of mental thoughts and actions. Maheswari, she who is the consort of Maheshwar, Lord of everything. Mahadevi, she who is the consort of Mahadeva, God of all gods. Mahalakshmi, she who takes the form of Mahalakshmi, the goddess of wealth. Mrida Priya, she who is dear to Mrida, Bhagwan Shiva. Maharupa, she is the vastest of all. Mahapuja, she is the greatest of all worships. Mahapathakanasini, she who destroys the major misdemeanors. Mahamaya, she who is the greatest illusion. Mahasattva, she who is the greatest knowledge. Mahashakti, she who is the greatest strength. Maharathi, she who is the greatest bliss. Mahabhoga, she who is the greatest of all pleasure. Maheshwarya, she who is the greatest of all wealth. Mahavirya, she who is the greatest of all valor. Mahabala, she who is the strongest. Mahabuddhi, she who is the most knowledgeable. Mahasiddhi, she who has all the great powers. Mahayogeshwari, she who is the goddess of great yogis. Mahatantra, she who is the greatest tantra herself. Mahamantra, she who is the greatest mantra herself. Mahayantra, she who is the greatest yantra herself. Mahasana, she who is the greatest to be realized. Mahayaga Kramaradhya, she who is worshipped by the greatest of all yagyas. Mahabhairava Pujita, she who is worshipped by Mahabhairava. Maheswara Mahakalpa Mahatandava Sakshini, she who witnesses the destruction of the universe in every cycle by the Tandav Nritya. Mahakamesha Maheshi, she who is the consort of great Kameshwara. Mahatripura Sundari, she who is Tripur Sundari Mahavidya. Chatustat Yupacharatya, she who is worshipped by 64 forms of yajna. Chatushashti Kalamahi, she who has 64 different forms. Mahachatusyasti Kodi Yogini Gana Sevita, she who is worshipped by 64 crore yoginis in 9 different chakras. Manu Vidya, she who is the personification of Shri Vidya as expounded by Manu. Chandra Vidya, she who is the personification of Shri Vidya as expounded by the moon. Chandra Mandala Madhyaga, she who is the center of the universe. Charurupa, she is very beautiful. Charuhasa, she who has a beautiful smile. Charu Chandra Kaladhara, she who wears the beautiful crescent moon. Chara Chara Jagannatha, she who is the Lord of all moving and immobile things. Chakra Rajanikethana, she who lives in the middle of Sri Chakra. Parvati, she who is the daughter of the mountain. Padmanayana, she who has eyes like the lotus. Padmaraga Samaprabha, she who shines as much as Padmaraga jewel. Panchapretha Sanasena, she who sits on the seat made by the 5 greatest, Brahma, Vishnu, Rudra and Sadasiva as the white blanket covering this Singhasana. Pancha Brahma Swarupini, she who is the personification of 5 Brahmas: Brahma, Vishnu, Rudra, Isha and Sadashiva. Chinmayi, she who is the supreme consciousness. Paramananda, she who is the supreme bliss. Vijnana Ganarupini, she who is the personification of knowledge based on science. Dhyana Dhyatru Dhyeya Rupa, she who is the personification of meditation, the being who meditates and what is being meditated upon. Dharma Dhrama Vivarjitha, she who is beyond dharma and adharma. Vishwarupa, she who is the form of entire universe. Jagarini, she who is the ever conscious. Turiya, she who is the Brahman. Sarvavastha Vivarjitha, she who is above all states of mind, intelligence and ego. Srishti-karatri, she who has created the universe. Brahmarupa, she who is the personification of ultimate Brahman. Gopatri, she who rescues. Govindarupini, she who is the form of Govinda. Sambharini, she who destroys. Rudra Rupa, she who is the form of Rudra. Thirodhanakari, she who hides herself from us. Ishwari, she who is the form of Ishvara. Sadashiva, she who is the form of Sadashiva. Anugrahada, she who blesses. Panchakritya Parayana, she who is engaged in the 5 duties of creation, existence, dissolving, disappearing and blessing. Bhanumandala Madhyastha, she who is in the middle of the sun's universe. Bhairavi, she who is the consort of Bhairava. Bhagamalini, she who is the goddess Bhagamalini. Padmasana, she who sits on a lotus. Bhagavati, she who is all wealth and knowledge. Padmanabha Sahodari, she who is the sister of Vishnu. Unmesha Nimishotapanna Vipanna Bhuvanavali, she who creates and destroys the universe by opening and closing of her eyelids. Sahasra Shirsha Vadana, she who has thousands of faces and heads. Saharakshi, she who has thousands of eyes. Sahasrapada, she who has thousands of feet. Abrahama Kida Janani, she who has created all beings, from insects to Lord Brahma. Varnashrama Vidhayani, she who has created the 4-fold division of Varna. Nijangna Rupa Nigama, she whose orders are the form of Vedas. Punya Punya Falapradha, she who gives the fruit of good and bad karma. Sruti Simantha Kula Sindhuri Krita Padabja Dhuliga, she whose dust from her lotus feet is the sindhura that fills up in the parting hair of the Vedic mother. Sakalagama Sandoha Shukti Samputa Mokdita, she is like the pearl whose shell are the 4 Vedas. Purushartha Pradhana, she who blesses with Purushartha, Dharma, Artha, Kama and Moksha. Purna, she who is complete. Bhogini, she who is the enjoyer of all. Bhuvaneshwari, she who is the goddess presiding over the universe. Ambika, she who is the mother of the world. Anadinidhana, she does not have beginning or end. Hari Brahmendra Sevitha, she who is served by gods like Vishnu, Indra and Brahma. Narayani, she who is the embodiment of Narayana. Nadarupa, she who is the embodiment of music. Namarupa Vivarjita, she who does not have either a specific name or shape, as all is her form. Rimkari, she who is the embodiment of the Bij sound Rim. Harimathi, she who is gentle. Hridaya, she who is in the heart. Heyopadeya Varjita, she who does not have aspects which can be accepted or rejected. Raja Rajarchita, she who is being worshipped by the King of Kings. Rakhini, she who is worshipped by Kameshwara. Ramya, she who gives bliss to all. Rajivalochana, she who is lotus-eyed. Ranjani, she who by her red color makes Shiva also red. Ramani, she who plays with her devotees. Rasya, she who gives rasa, anubhuti of all sattvic deeds. Ranatha Kinkini Mekhala, she who wears the golden waistband with tinkling ghungru. Rama, she who is Lakshmi. Rakendu Vadana, she who has a face like the full moon. Rathirupa, she who is beautiful as the wife of Kamdeva himself. Rathipriya, she who blessed Rathi. Rakshakari, she who protects. Rakshasagni, she who kills Rakshasa. Rama, she who is feminine. Ramana Rampata, she who loves her consort Mahadev Shiva. Kamya, she who is the form of love itself. Kamakala Rupa, she who is the personification of the art of love. Kadamba Kusuma Priya, she who likes the flowers of Kadamba. Kalyani, she who blesses with goodness. Jagathi Kandha, she who is the root of the universe. Karuna Rasa Sagara, she is the sea of all compassion. Kalavati, she who is the artist. Kalalapa, she who gives conversational art. Kantha, she who glitters. Kadambari Priya, she who likes Kadambari. Varadha, she who gives var to the deserving ones. Vamanayana, she who has beautiful eyes. Varuni Madha Vivala, she who is soaked in happiness. Viswadhika, she who is beyond the universe. Veda Vedya, she who can be understood by the Vedas. Vindhyachala Nivasini, she who lives in Vindhya mountains. Vidhatri, she who carries the world. Veda Janani, she who created the Vedas. Vishnu Maya, she who is the Maya of Vishnu. Vilasini, she who is the lover. Kshetra Swarupa, she who is present in the body. Kshetresi, she who is the goddess of the bodies. She who looks after the bodies and the one who resides in it. Kshaya Vridhi Nirmukta, she who neither decreases or increases. Kshetrapala Samarjita, she who is worshipped by those who look after bodies, that is Deva. Vijaya, she who is always victorious. Vimala, she who is clean of ignorance and illusion. Vandhya, she who is being worshipped by everybody. Vandharujana Vatsala, she who has the affection towards all those who worship her. Vagavadhini, she who uses words with great effect. Vamakesi, she who has beautiful hair. Vahani Mandalavasini, she who lives in the universe of fire, which is Mooladhara. Bhakti Mata Kalpalatika, she who is the wish-giving creeper, Kalpaka. Pasupasa Vimojani, she who removes shackles from the living. Samhruta Sesha Pashanda, she who destroys those who are devoid of goodness. Sadachara Pravarthika, she who makes things happen through good conduct. Tatpatragni Sanktapta Sammahalatna Chandrika, she who is like the pressure-giving moon to those who suffer from 3 types of pain. Tharuni, she who is ever young, that is, never decays or decreases. Tapasa Aradhya, she who is being worshipped by the yogis. Thanumadhya, she who has the narrow middle. Thamopaha, she who destroys darkness. Jidhi, she who is the personification of wisdom. Tatpada Lakshartha, she is the indicative meaning of the word Tat, which is the first word of the Upanishadic Mahavakya, that thou art. Tatvamasi implies that she is that. She is Brahman, the Supreme Being, Supreme Consciousness. Chidekara Swarupini, she who is the Swarup, form of Chid, consciousness. She is the Swarup of pure consciousness. Swathamanandalavi bhuta Brahmadhyanantha santati, she is the ocean as Brahman, in which the mind, intelligence and wisdom rise as if waves from that ocean. Para, she is beyond all. Prathyaka Chidrupa, she is the apparent consciousness and the apparent wisdom. Pasyanti, all exist within herself. Paradevatha, she who gives power to all the Devatas. Madhyama, while being beyond, is still in the middle of everything. Vaikhari Rupa, she whose power also shows in words. Bhakta Manasahamsika, she is like a swan swimming in a lake, the lake being the heart of her bhakta. Kameshwara Prananari, she who gave life to Kameshwara. Krutagna, she who watches all actions of everyone, or she who knows all. Kama Pujita, she who is worshipped by Kamdeva. Shringarasa Sampurna, she who is the most beautiful of all. Jaya, she who is the personification of victory. Jalandhara Sthita, she who is on Jalandhara Pitha, who is the purest of the pure. Odhyana Pida Nilaya, she who is on Odhyana Pida. Indu Mandala Vasini, she who lives in the dot in the center of Sri Chakra. Rahu Yoga Kramarthaya, she who is also worshipped by secret tantra. Rahastarpana Tarpitha, she who is pleased by the speaker and knower of chants. Satya Prasadini, she who is pleased immediately. Visvasakshini, she who observes and witnesses the universe. Sakshi Varjita, she who does not have witness for herself. Shadanga Devatha Yukta, she who has her 6 parts as God, that is, heart, head, hair, battle dress, eyes and arrows. Shadugunya Paripuritha, she who is full of 6 characteristics, that is, prosperity, duty, fame, knowledge, assets and renunciation. Nitya Klina, she who is full of compassion. Nirupama, she who does not have anything to be compared to. Nirvanusukhadayani, she who gives nirvana, moksha. Nitya Shodasikarupa, she who is the form of 16 goddesses. Srikandarthasarini, she who occupies half the body of Bhagwan Shiva. Prabhavati, she who is lustrous of supernatural powers. Prabharupa, she who is personification of the light provided by supernatural powers. Prasiddha, she who is known to all in some form or the other. Parameshwari, she who is the final ultimate goddess. Moola Prakriti, she who is Prakriti herself, the root cause. Avyakta, she who cannot be explained by words. Vyaktha Avyakta Swarupini, she who is visible yet not visible. Vyapini, she who is present everywhere. Vividhakara, she who has different forms. Vidya Swarupini, she who is the form of knowledge as well as ignorance. Mahakameshanayana Kumudalata Kaumudi, she who is like the full moon which opens the lotus-like eyes of Lord Kameshwara, Shiva. Bhakta Harathathamu Bheda Bhanu Madabhanu Santati, she who is like the sun's rays which remove the darkness from the heart of devotees. Shivadhuti, she who sent Shiva as her representative. Shivaradhya, she who is worshipped by Bhagwan Shiva. Shivamurti, she who is the personification of Shiva. Shivanagri, she who makes good to happen. Shiva Priya, she who is dear to Bhagwan Shiva. Shiva Para, she who does not have any other interest except Bhagwan Shiva. Shishteshtha, she who likes those with purity in heart. Shishtha Pujitha, she who is being worshipped by good people. Aprameya, she who cannot be measured. Swapraksha, she who has her own luster. Manovachamagochara, she who is beyond the mind and the world. Chitasakshi, she who is knowledge and consciousness herself. Chetanarupa, she who is the personification of Chitta. Jada Shakti, she who is the strength of the immovable as well. She who is the personification of existence itself. Gayatri, she who is Ma Gayatri. Vyaruti, she who is the grammar originated from letters. Sandhya, she who is the union of Bhakt and Bhagwan. Dvija Brinda Nishevita, she who is being worshipped by all beings. Tatvasana, she who resides on Tattva. Tat, she who is that. Tattvam, she who is you. Ai, she who is the mother. Panchakosandhrasthita, she who is in between the 5 holy parts. Nissema Mahima, she who has unlimited compassion. Nityayovana, she who is ever young, that is, she who never changes. Madhashalini, she who shines by her exuberance. Madhagurnitharaktakshi, she who has red eyes due to her exuberance. Madhapatalakhandabhu, she who has red cheeks. Chandaladhravadigdhangi, she who applies sandal paste all over her body. Champeya Kusuma Priya, she who likes the flowers of Champaka tree. Kusula, she who is all of intelligence. Komalakara, she who has a gentle, beautiful form. Kurukulla, she who is the form of Kurukulla Devi who lives in Vimarsa. Kuleshwari, she who is the goddess of all clans. Kulakundalya, she who lives in Kulakunda, or she who is the power of Kundalini. Kaulamarga Tatpara Sevita, she who is being worshipped by the people who follow Kaulamatha. Kumaragana Nadambha, she who is the mother to Ganesh and Subramanya. Tushti, she who is the personification of bliss. Pushti, she who is the personification of all well-being. Madhi, she who is the personification of wisdom. Dhriti, she who is the personification of courage. Santhi, she who is the personification of peace. Swasthimati, she who looks after the well-being of the universe. Kanthi, she who is the personification of light. Nandini, she who is Nandini, daughter of Kamadhenu. Vignanasini, she who removes obstacles. Tejovadhi, she who shines brilliantly. Trinayana, she who has three eyes. Lolakshi Kamarupini, she who has passionate eyes. Malini, she who wears garland. Hamsini, she who is surrounded by swans. Matha, she who is the mother.